Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. Let's paint. Okay, so this is the 10th and final page of the Majestic Horses watercolor coloring book. As always, you need a brush. Any brush is totally fine. Some place to mix your colors. Jar of water on the side. Paper towel or a rag or anything really just to dry off your brush every so often. And then finally the palette. Any palette works. It does not have to be this one. I've just started using this one more and more because, one, I figure you can pretty much find it anywhere. Two, they're actually decent paints for the price. It's very affordable. I think this one cost me only like $5. But you pretty much get a full spectrum of paints, and they're actually fairly vibrant. And this image is 3 horses that are running right at you. So the way that we'll paint them is we're going to focus a lot on the surroundings first, and then we'll paint the horses themselves. So first and foremost, we'll just get some green. And I don't use any fancy paint names. Everything's just exactly as I see it. And I'm going to mix up a good amount of water because the first layer, I want it to be more transparent, come off a little lighter. And then just go ahead and fill in the grass down here. So start very slowly, avoiding the horses, their legs and hooves, just because I don't... If you get a little bit of the paint in there, that's totally fine. But I'm trying to avoid that. See, I did a little bit got in, but that's fine. I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, and then once we've blocked in the color here for the center of where the horses are, I'm going to rinse my brush, leave a little bit of moisture on there, and then just kind of pull out the rest of the color. Press against the paper to pick up some of the texture, make it a little more interesting. And we'll let that dry. Then we'll focus on the background. So the background, the colors are going to be more muted and darker. And we'll start off by mixing kind of like a dark color that would be in between the trees. And the way we'll mix that color is we'll get some blue, a lot of blue and a lot of brown, because that'll give us kind of like a neutral dark color. And we will throw in a little bit of green in there in a second. But first I want to make sure that I mix a lot of it. So I do want to put a good amount of water, but then I'm also going to put a lot of paint in there as well. And usually when we put a lot of water into the mixture, it makes it a lot more transparent. But in this case, we just need a lot of mixture. And so we do need a lot of paint and a lot of water so that we have enough to paint as much as we're going to. Okay, fill that in. And I like using porcelain dishes when mixing the colors because I can just pretty much see the color as I'm mixing it, and I don't have to use a scrap sheet of paper as much. But like, for example, this is pretty close to the color that we want for the background. And so we're just going to go ahead and start laying it in. We do want to do that carefully because the color is so dark so that the horses in the foreground stand out. So we do want to do that kind of slowly and put all of that in here. You know, put in a little bit in between the background for where the horses are running between their legs. A little bit down here. And then as we get to right around here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here, fill this in. Okay, I'm going to rinse off my brush, a little bit of moisture left in it, and then just kind of pull out the color because obviously in nature things get lighter. Even if it's in the midst of a forest, everything gets lighter towards the top because that's where the light source is. And then here, I'm going to fill in the rest of the gaps between the trees. But what I want to do is, I'm not using as much pigment or as much paint as I did over here. I'm going to rinse my brush and use some just water, and you see how it'll blend in, and it'll bring out the color. But then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to rinse off my brush, pick up some brown, mix it up a little bit so it's not as strong, and then just go right over. So what that does is, it'll put in the brown for where the tree is, so you can kind of differentiate a little bit. But it doesn't stand out as much. It's muddled and desaturated, so it doesn't look like a point of focus. It just looks like kind of like a background, or like out of focus background, because it's too far away. And then we're going to do the same with the trees over here. I'm grabbing just a little bit and just kind of mixing it in. But since I'm using more water to kind of blend it in, it doesn't stand out as much as, for example, the foreground will once we finish painting that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a little bit more of the dark color that we mixed. I'm going to put that in here as well as in here for the tree, but then I'll get water, draw that out, and put that all over here. And then grab the brown and then just lay that in. Let it mix and blend. And we're not super precise about it on purpose. And then grab some of the green and do the same. Just kind of fill that in and let the colors bleed into one another. It's not of the highest importance that they don't. Just let them bleed into one another. And you can already see how the horses themselves just stand out so much more since we have the background in there. And that's the first layer. We are going to add more layers into the background. And then same thing over here. Just like that. And rinse my brush off, and just with the wet brush, just kind of pull that out. More of the brown. Just kind of following the tree. I'm gonna rinse off my brush and dry it off so I can actually pick up some of the excess there. And then get some green. Just throw that in there. I just noticed that some of the background color bled into the grass here, and we can just pick that up with a moist brush, and then with a dry brush, and just go back and forth a little bit, but you'll get it out pretty easily if you do the same mistake. Okay, so next we're going to focus back on the foreground where the grass is. I'm gonna get a lot more green this time. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of block in where the horses are. So actually, I don't want too much paint. Make it a little easier. So just kind of, because we just cleared that up, it will kind of bleed in. That's fine. We'll just let it. And then just kind of do short strokes to show that there's some texture because of the grass. And then make the strokes themselves more spread out and more sporadic the further out you go. Okay. Like that. I'm using just the tip of the brush It helps make the strokes finer. Okay, I'm gonna rinse off my brush. Not completely, there's still some paint on there. And just kind of make a little texture, like fade it out as I go further out. When this dries, these little blades of grass are going to be much lighter. And that's what we want. Like that. Okay, perfect. And then the background color here that we already have mixed up, we're just going to use it again to emphasize more of the background color. So we're just going to go ahead and fill that in where we already did in the first layer of the background. Same thing back here. But this time I'm just going to stop right around there. I don't want it to be too overwhelming. Like that. And just a little bit here. Same over here. Like that. Okay, I'm gonna rinse off my brush and dry it off a little bit. So there's still just a little bit of moisture in the brush, and then just kind of pick up some of that color, go upwards. Like that. And same here. I rinse off my brush completely. And next, what I'm going to do is, I'll turn that around. I'm going to mix up the color for the horses. And so the way that I'll do that is I'm going to get some blue, some brown. I need a lot more blue actually. And I'm trying to mix kind of like a neutral shadow, kind of like a cool, more of a blue-gray shadow tone. And the reason I'm making these horses white is because they just look, you can see them so much better, so much more clearly against the background. Because if you go in and color them, because there's so much going on, it'll be too much. It'll get overpowered. It'll ruin the composition a little bit, unless you make the colors very light. Okay, so that's about the color that we want. Yeah, we just need more water to make it a little more transparent. Okay. And then we just imagine the light is coming from straight up, so it's like going like straight down at the horses, meaning that the shadows will just be underneath for the most part. So for the first one, we're just going to go slowly, just a little bit on the chin there, definitely on the neck. I try to loosely follow kind of the definition of the muscles and where the shadow might fall. Just kind of outline the inner legs. Then a little bit of the ear, some of the face here and there. Okay, some of the mane, and then back here the belly, just kind of outlining it. The back leg here, definitely all of it would be in shadow. The front leg on the inside, and then on the inside of the back leg here, some of the tail. That's probably it for this one. Then we can move on to the middle one. So the neck, definitely, that would be a lot of shadow there. That. And then here for the front legs on the inside. That. See, a little bit of the color is bleeding in here. I'm not gonna worry about that right now because I might make it worse if I do. So a little bit of the hair here, maybe a little bit of the brow ridge, and then the last one, this one on the side, just kind of where the neck is and the muscles, just following along and just filling it in slowly, the back leg. Okay, some of the facial muscles, like that. And yeah, I'd say that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to rinse my brush off completely, then dry it off completely, and pick up some of that excess over here. Dry it off, rinse it off, then dry it off completely, and do the same. Just some of the excess colors that are bothering me that went into the leg. And maybe with a dry brush, do it one more time, like that. So that's not too bad. I'm gonna step back for a moment just to take a look at it. It's always good to step back from a piece that you're working on every so often. And then what I'll do is same thing as the previous page. I'm just gonna add some black outlines, but not all over, just every so often. Just kind of help separate the horses from the background a little more. So first we'll go with this one right here. We'll go on the side, and then underneath a little bit, definitely in the hooves, just kind of coloring them in. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to give the suggestion that that would be what their color is. A little bit over here. A little bit in the legs here, just to separate them a little better. This back leg. Over here. Back here for this one. And the hooves. And yeah, I think that's pretty much perfect. I'm very happy with how this one looks. If you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate. Just send me an email, leave me a message, whatever works, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.